Today, I want to show you how you can write control-beating emails for your own list, or if you're a copywriter or a marketer that writes his own emails, or you write for somebody else, I'm going to show you how you can beat 95% of the emails that are out there. All right, so pay attention because this is honestly one of the best trainings you'll have when it comes to writing email. I'm going to take you from an idea all the way down to execution on how you can write high performing emails, high converting emails, high open rates, high CTRs, and I'm just going to lay it all down. Now, I do want to shout out some people that have taught me this, partially Tobias from Hermosi's team. He's a Hermosi's CMO. Joey Persia, which a lot of emails that I learned, Jared, Heath, a lot of those guys that I've learned email from. Some of them are mentors of mine who I've paid. Some of them that I learned by working at ClickFunnels and whatnot. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Konain Shah. I've been writing emails for the last 5 years. And within that time, I've written for Russell Brunson, Dan Kennedy, Iman Gadji, and many of the 7, 8, and 9-figure businesses, including a few public companies that are listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So what I will be sharing you is not fluff. It's been proven. It works, and you'll find out why very soon. Now, before I get into the entire email structure, I want to dive quickly into this triangle, which talks about the deliverability, the campaigns, the automation, personalization, and ninja shit. So 95%, if you want to go beat 95% of email marketers out there, if you just have your deliverability, your campaigns, your automations in the right place, you will beat them. Hands down. You can write half-ass email, you'll still beat them, right? Then number 4 is personalization. When it comes to like, hey, how do you personalize based on what they buy, who they buy, where they came from, whatnot. That's too much for this video right now. I think that is just some, I would almost call it ninja level shit, but this is not to talk about ninja stuff or these crazy hacks or these crazy tactics, because chances are you don't have an email list that you're managing that has 10 million subscribers on them, right? You don't have things like, writing for big companies that have 12 million people on their list where you have to export them, put it into ads, retarget. I'm not going to talk about all about that. What I am going to talk about is how to write control-beating emails that you can write every single day, right? From the ideation to the execution, everything. So pay attention because this is important. Now, when it comes to the ideation part, anytime you staring at a blank screen, you're looking at an email, you want to look at, okay, what can I write about, right? Every day you maybe write daily emails, whether you're writing sequences, whatever it may be. You're like, okay, what can I possibly write about? And these are typically the things that you can talk about, but I'm going to go deep into this. So you can talk about case studies / client testimonials, client stories, what they went through, where they are now, blah, 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 right? You can talk about current events. So right now, crypto is taking a big hit. Trump is very popular. You guys can talk about those things. What personal experiences have you or somebody you're writing for has had, or one of your clients have had, right? You go write about that. Peer experiences. So example could be your friends, or hey, I learned, even like things you've learned in the book. You could talk about that. Any unique selling propositions that you have based around your offer, whatever you're offering. And then you can always, ask Claude or Chat or whatnot. So there's only 3 types of emails that you can possibly write. So you have the value, you have the conceptual, and then you have the perspective. And let me just go into all this. So number 1, you always want to have a payoff and value for the reader, whomever it may be. So the type of emails that you can write is like, for example, you can write insightful email, a new way of looking into something. So if you're talking about weight loss, hey, here's a smarter way, or here's an easier way, or here's a new way of doing something. Here's the new secret that I've learned. Like another thing, like this is more when going up, is more talking about the unique selling process. It's an insight that you can go into. So you can share a secret, a story, a lesson, a new way of doing something that can help the reader to shift belief and operate differently to help them get to what they want, because previously something hasn't been working. Yeah. So helpful question to ask yourself is like, okay, what is their current false belief that they believe right now, right? And if you look at one of the Russell Brunson's books, he talks about internal versus external beliefs. So like, what do they believe inside, or what do they believe externally that needs to happen in order for them to take action? So what's the story that they tell themselves? Because what? Oh, somebody's going to judge me. Oh, what does my mom think about me? Whatever it may be. Yeah. So where did this come from? When did they decide this? Right. Any new perspective, deliberately jumping, you want to deliver, you want to, plant seeds, hint. Don't just go on like, hey, you fucking suck because you don't, none of that. I swear to God, I review a lot of young copywriters that are coming up, and they just want to bulldoze through everything like you suck. You want to say things, and they're beating up, is what I like to call. They're beating up the audience, and the last thing you want to do is beat up, unless you've already talked about this and you're getting some sort of commitment. But it just doesn't work. You don't want to beat up your audience. They're just going to unsubscribe, and that is the opposite way of writing controlled beating emails. Anyways, you can connect with them. So, you can sort of share an example lesson that you learned over your life or last month, or, hey, I've had a client that was going through this. You can tell a story, a metaphor, analogy to connect the dots and see how it applies to their life. So there's that. You can give an action item, some sort of wisdom that you've done or you've learned, or, hey, here's how my client did this. This is how you can do it to improve your business and whatnot, or improve your health and whatnot, or improve your dating life and whatnot and whatnot. So anyways, it has to be useful. So you can write something that's useful to self-talk in regards to when they go talk or when they read your email. Oh yeah, I could do that. Right. So for example, like, hey, here's how my client lost 20 pounds last month. Kind of an exaggeration, but still, here's the exact process that she did, and you can copy and paste it. Or here's how I wrote. Here's my exact cold email template that I've written, and here's the screenshot. Here's the subject line I use. Here's the body copy I use, and here's where it is. I'm just gonna give it to you. He's like, oh yeah, that's useful. I can go use it right now. Something that is emotionally compelling. It connects with them with their core issue. So if somebody's having a dating problem, like, oh, my boyfriend is like this, or my girlfriend is like this, like, they're like, oh fuck, she is like this, right? It hits the emotional buttons, like, or they fear something, like, hey, has somebody said this about you? Has somebody ever called you fat? Right? Or have somebody ever called you a scammer? Right? Or so it's the emotional hot buttons, right? So like it triggers, any triggers they have, the fears, the desires, like, desires, like, here's the exact way how I got this Lamborghini, right? Or something along those lines. So, and you can think about it. Anyways, let's go to the next, which is conceptual. So the angle, the big idea, the core concept used to drill things home, right? So there's bunch of angles that you can go at. So it's like when you have this down, this becomes easier, right? And huge shout out to Joey for this, by the way. So in regards to what you can talk about, there's three things. So you can talk, like, take a contrarian sort of way. You can have some sort of novelty, or you can do problem solution, more of like a Dan Kennedy style. He loves problem solution. So you can do a rant, right? Like, hey, like, I would do this, and you just keep going, right? Myths versus facts. So this works really well in the weight loss market. Here's the myths, here's the facts, right? You can do like an us versus them sort of a thing. Things to avoid when it comes to making your first sale or something, or things to avoid when trying to lose 20 pounds, or things to avoid when when doing cold email, or things to avoid, when you're training your team. Whatever you offer, like, just insert that, right? Or worse than XYZ. So like this is like, okay, this is worse than keto. So when it comes to diet, right? Or worse than creating YouTube content, whatever it may be, right? So like, and then early warning signs. So like crypto would be amazing for this, right? Like everybody would open this. So like, hey, crypto early warning signs, because crypto's taking a big hit right now, and it would actually go crazy. So that's the contrarian side of things, where you're like, hey, be aware. Here's my take and how I don't agree, right? Then there's the metaphor / analogy. So this is when it comes to the novelty side of things. So you can talk about a metaphor, some sort of analogy that you may have that connects the reader to what they want. You have the 3 rules, like, hey, here's my 3 rules that I do things. There's 2 types. So like 2 types, usually it's like, hey, like, there's, this way, and then there's a this way, right? So there's two types of way, and you can choose which way you want to go about this. Root cause versus surface level problem. So most people talk about the root cause. I mean, the surface level problem, like, hey, I need to eat right, but no, you just need to fix your habit, and that's the root cause. Because your habits are bad, that's the root cause. And you just think, oh, it's because I eat Cheetos and you have Cheeto dust and Doritos at night. Like that's the surface level problem. It's actually your habits that are causing that, right? So you want to go after the root cause versus the surface level problem. You could talk about the old unhelpful way or the old way. So like, for example, like if I was going to go talk about cold email, you could talk about like the old way to do cold email, right? Where you had to do these like 7 steps, 10 steps, whereas a new way, which is like, hey, it's only 3, right? Or it's only 2, or it's only 1, right? Or here's how my software XYZ thing actually reduces it, therefore it becomes a new way, and I call it an XYZ thing, which you can make up, create your own USP, and now you've taken half the market. Anyways, past, present, and future, right? So I love this because like, hey, here's what worked before. So it's kind of like the old unhelpful way, very similar. Like, here's what worked in the past, here's what's working in the present, and here's what I think will help happen in the future, right? Which almost always puts you in that leadership position where they feel like, oh, this person knows something. Oh, he's a leader that I should listen to, right? So this is a contradiction. So you want to contradict, like, hey, I heard some guy talking about XYZ thing. Here's my thoughts on it, right? And then any unique mechanism behind a problem. So if you solve weight loss, and so one of my clients, they have a SMART way to weight loss, SMART. That is their USP, right? Like there's a unique mechanism here, and then I forget like what the each, like S means something, M means something, A means something, right? So there's a way to, if you have a proprietary solution for a root cause. So if you have any, it's very similar to unique mechanism. If you have something that's like a specific way to do something, talk about that. This, not that. So like, hey, you want to do this, not something else, right? That's actually going to cause you all these problems. Whereas if you use this, it causes nothing. It's actually healthier for you, whatnot. So you can talk that, or you can like the formula for $1 million business, right? The formula for whatever. Insert your offer. Insert the thing that they desire most, right? So the formula for driving faster cars, the formula for getting your first car, right? Or the formula for buying your first house, the buying your first real estate property, for the formula for making a profitable trade, whatever it may be. And then we go down to problem solutions where you can talk about a crystal ball. So if I was to wave this crystal ball and this was to happen, would you do it? If they say yes, and then like you get a bunch of replies, you can go reach out to them. Your sales team can go get them, right? Case against, like, problem with this one is like, hey, here's my case against this thing, or here's my case against, like, hey, I don't believe that this tie works, or here's my case against that. Here's my problem with that, and then you can go after that and talk about that. Do you suffer from XYZ? And what that means is like, do you suffer from eczema, or whatever sort of problem that they might have, or maybe create something new that it will trigger them. So it's kind of like going up where we're talking about triggers and things that they might reply with, and like may have around their desires, their fears, and whatnot. So right, like, do you suffer from no client syndrome? Like, that'd be a funny one to imagine, right? So like, do you suffer from no client syndrome? Or like, do you I love this. This is one of my favorite ones. Like, it's almost like, don't you hate, like, sometimes I'm like, do you hate money? Like, that is one of my subject lines in one of my closed cart, and it has one of the highest open rates, and it gets people that it's almost forcing. So be careful when using it, but it's like an end of a closed cart. I'm like, do you hate money? Yeah, the one secret, this has been abused, overused. Here's the one way to do things. Like, obviously there's no one way. Like, here's one way to create the best selling challenges or whatnot, right? So like, this has been abused. You tried everything, right? But it works great. It's an angle that you can use. Like, hey, I know you've tried keto, Weight Watchers and whatnot, and all these different diets, or I know you've tried all these client acquisition things, but you still can't sign clients and whatnot. this is fun. Like, are you a gym rat? Right? So it's like obsessed, and you're doing all the things. Like, are you a gym? So if you were like selling to like people who work out, like, are you a gym rat? Right? Like that works very well. And then, are you just gonna keep doing this forever? Right? Like, hey, how long are you gonna have this no client syndrome? Right? Or how are you gonna have this? Are you just gonna keep on these 40 pounds for the rest of your life and just not even do anything? Because if that's the case, then you're in it for yourself. But if you want change, you want transform, how do you want that to happen, right? So like, hey, and then here's a thing. I love this for personal invitation / question. So this is for events, any type of events that we do, like whether it's a webinar, master class, challenges, even live events. So meaning they're happening in person. I love this. Like, here's a personal invitation for you. And yeah, so let's move on to the perspective side of things. So perspective is the lens or frame you use to make your point, right? You can explain problems and outcome to people in different ways. This is the perspective / your stance / your way you are delivering your message. So for example, you can have aspirational, you can have insightful, you can have actionable, or you can have like an analytical breakdown of how you see things. So let's break down each one. So aspirational. You inspire action through story or anecdote. So for example, somebody was like, if you were somebody that lost 20 pounds, yeah, be like, hey, here's how I did it. Every day I had to wake up this, I do this, I do this, do this. So one of the things that I could possibly talk about is like, hey, look, here's how to run your first marathon. Here's everything that I did. Here's how I became first place and whatnot, right? And that's a true story, by the way. Make them feel and motivate, so like, here's what everything I did. And I wish somebody had told me this, but now that you have this, you're going to go crush it, right? Talk about your core values that you have for your business and things as such. So you can talk about stories. So like, think of like aspirational, like you want to look at stories, right? So you want to look at like, okay, here's how I've done it, or here's how, somebody else or one of your clients have done it, and it's changed their life. It's actually one of the top stories in our community and whatnot. So you can talk about that. The next one is insightful. Peek into the human being, your cognitive bias, habits, personal preference, iOS, think different, or see blind spots. So like anything insightful that the reader feels like, oh, that's a good way. So I see what's his name, Alan Sultanic, do this a lot, where like he does a lot of like human behavior stuff, like, hey, here's why we operate, or any habits that we have personally, and he like recommends a book or something. Or here's why most offers don't work, because they need to have XYZ thing before in order to buy. So for example, like, here's how e-commerce brands, can make millions, but there's a they need to have a Shopify or an e-commerce store before they can have it. So like, that's one of the blind spots most people have. So their targeting could be wrong, whatnot. And yeah. Anything actionable, so anything you could teach, educate, learn, part of the plan. Anything that is tactable, implementable advice with what and why, step by step, explain practical tips, tutorials, checklist. This is, by the way, this is great for if you're onboarding somebody. Like, you want to have a step by step and explain a practical tip, a tutorial, a checklist, a cheat sheet, things to do, measure, track / tools. So like, hey, here's my most famous tool, or the one tool that I use to write all my copy. I don't, but that would be a good email, right? Or like, here's my exact cheat sheet on how to lose weight, or here's my exact cheat sheet to sign 20 clients a month, whatever it may be. And then you can do analytical, and I love when analytical is actually real, because you can break down so much and be like, hey, over the last 3 months, here's exactly what I've learned. Writing our emails, or signing clients, and here's how much I've spent. Here's how much each client cost me, and here's the profit I make. Like, that would be so cool for people to learn, especially if you have a bigger business. Or you could talk about like, what's current events are happening, and here's where I think the market is going to go and whatnot, and here's what I think about this industry. You can write about that. Now, how do you structure it all? So like, you can talk about books, people, resources, what to do, what not to do, mistakes, steps, tools, the ultimate guide to doing something, summary of a book, Traffic drivers are very similar to hand raisers, where it's a very short email, and you're just driving like, hey, we're doing this thing, get them hyped about, or maybe talk about a problem like, hey, have you experienced this? Have you experienced XYZ thing? Luckily, we're hosting a XYZ workshop on this day where you'll learn. You'll have like 3 to 4 bullet points. You have a CTA, and then be like what, when, where, why. That is something that we've created at ClickFunnels, and then everybody started copying it. Anyways, the story, a case study. All right, so if you want to tell your story, tell a client's story. You can do interviews with clients or customers, or even new people. Or I see a lot of people doing podcasts. You can talk about that. You can do a feature. Feature means like you're featuring on a podcast, or if you're featuring somebody else's into your. So it's very similar to like promoting or affiliates and whatnot. And then you can do a Q&A, right? So hey, somebody asked me this. And I love doing Q&A, especially in closed card emails. Like, hey, what question do you have about this offer or this problem or whatever that I'm teaching? So now, I've taught you everything around how to think of emails, how to come up with ideas, right? So I've talked about the ideation, but I want to jump into how to create winning email creatives. And the way to do that is you need all the necessary components of a persuasive, curiosity-driven message that gets the click, so meaning high CTR, and is congruent with the reader and what they see on the next step. A lot of ads I see is like I click on them, and then on the sales page it talks about completely different things, and they're like, oh, why do I have low opt-in rate? Like, no shit, Sherlock. A successful execution will result in high conversion rate, which equals to high PPM, profit per thousand, right? So especially for those of you guys that are running ads, you know what PPM means. And our main metric for guiding email performance. Now, there's about 5 stages that I look at when it comes to writing control beating email. So obviously you want to look at the offer. You want to review the creative. So like if you have written VSL, you want to collect everything that there is of the offer, right? Anything attention grabbing, anything that makes you feel something in your gut when you read it. You know, a copy is written well when you read it and you're like, holy shit, like this is amazing. And one of the things that I like to do is like I like to control or command A, so I copy everything on the page. I throw it on Claude. I'm like, hey, what are the most interesting topics on this, or what are the most pain or triggers or fears or desires that people would have on this topic, and it gives me a whole list. I'm like, oh, cool. I got the legs. I got the creatives, right? So let's talk about that. So after writing your first draft, right? So based on everything that I've laid out here, you go write your first draft. It doesn't matter if it's bad. It doesn't matter if it's good. You go write it. And a lot of guys, what I see they do is they act like writing the email is somehow going to make them a genie. Like you're not. The process of copywriting is mostly editing rather than writing it. Like, yes, you're writing stuff, but the way you make control beating emails based on edits. So what I like to do is just get my idea in the brain out on the paper, right? So after writing your first draft, start editing from length, tone, clarity, efficiency, flow, and grammar, right? I think one of the key things, flow matters a lot, right? Obviously, clarity matters a lot. Not for you, for the customer. So one of the key things I think in copywriting is like you have 2 jobs, right? You have the job of copywriter, which you have to write stuff, but you also have the job of looking at it from the lens of the audience or the prospect or the client. Make sense? So you want to look at, the tone, the clarity, the efficiency, the flow, and the grammar. So the goal is to make the copy as smooth as possible, as short as possible, and as punchy so it can be effective and you get the message across. Most people just write like a whole sales page in an email. Like, no. Most people write very short. They're like yay long. And I'm like, I don't know what you said. I don't know what's going on. And I don't know what I'm getting. Why should I even be paying attention? Right? You want to read the draft out loud to catch any awkward phrases. Like, go read it. Read it as if you were in your head. And like, by the way, don't read it in your head. Read it out loud. We love, like at ClickFunnels, we would actually read it out loud. Like, and at like, I'm forgetting the name. Yeah. So at Agora, you have, so everybody, like, they go print them out and they go read it to everybody. Hey, let me read your copy out loud to everybody. And then, so say they're done their sales letter or sales pages or emails, they go up, they hold their paper, and then they go read word by word and be like, hey, caught you there, caught you there, caught you there, boom. And then it's, yeah, anyways. So I like to run drafts through an online editing platform called Hemingway. You can use it. There's a bunch of other ones. Like if you want to look for like spammy and all the like crazy words that you shouldn't be using that gets emails to promo, use like, I think it's called something Meteor Strike, something like that. It helps with readability and making writing crisp and clear. Plus it's another filter. I love filters. Even like sometimes I like to just drop it into Claude and it'll tell me what's wrong with it. So when you're happy with the rhythm, the content, the execution, run spell check to catch anything that you might have missed, right? And by the way, this does not take long. Like a lot of you, I swear to God, these low-level copywriters don't do this, and this is what makes or breaks most copywriters, by the way, is they don't check their work. They're like, oh yeah, I wrote once, send it off to the client. What are you doing? You're not a copywriter. You're just writing stuff and you're throwing it, or the copy and paste from Claude. Oh, here you go, email done. No, please don't do that. Personally, what I like to do is I let the email sit for a couple hours, come back with fresh eyes to see if I missed anything. And and maybe I'll talk about the productivity side of things, because at one point I was managing 12 email lists at a time, writing every single day, and people were like, how the fuck are you doing it? So I'll talk about the production side of things, on how I get so much copy done in short time as possible and as effective as possible. Maybe that's another video, but personally what I like to do is be ahead. I like to buy time in the future, which I'll talk about as a whole concept that I have personally. So ideally, I like to sit for a couple hours and then come back with fresh eyes to see if I notice anything different. So obviously, this isn't possible with tight deadlines. If you have some promos going on, you're like, dude, I got to get this thing out. But ideally, you're going to have different changes or different thoughts if you come back a few hours. So, because, if you write today and write tomorrow, I promise you both copies will be completely different. So if the offer has potential based on the first send, you can continue testing, which will either involve testing more email body angles or moving to subject line testing. So choose what you think will perform best based on previous experience and data that you can gather, right? So you want, like, every day to look at, like, okay, what hit, what didn't hit, right? So you can do subject line tests. Now, one thing that I did not add in this is from name test. Like a lot of old school, especially in the food niche or weight niche or health niche, a lot of the from name, they used to test a lot of from name. I don't do that anymore because Google is very strict on that nowadays, because I could just change my from name to, like, imagine fish send you an email. Like, you're gonna have such a high open rate, but you can't do that, right? So or like tiramisu sent you an email, or potato sent, like, you can change your names, right? So it's like, don't do that anymore. I don't do that anymore. You could test it out for yourself and see how it goes, and let me know. Anyways, I won't go into subject lines first name here, so we'll save that for its own lesson. But here are 7 templates that you can utilize that work for traffic driving creatives. Now, what are traffic drivers? So traffic drivers are anything that are driving traffic from the email list to somewhere. So a sales page, a call, whatever it may be, right? So you can give them specific instructions or benefit or reverse, right? So mix this. So what is this, right? So I'm just going to underline this. Mix this in your morning coffee, right? Eat this, drink this, do this, right? Apply 3 drops in the morning to a ratio of 1 cup of morning burns 3 pounds of belly fat, right? So you can look at this. You're giving specific instructions with benefit, right? So do this to this, do this to this, mix this with this, because I'll do this. Make sense, right? Eat this in the morning to shrink, belly fat. Drink this super chocolate at night, melt away stress. Do this naturally to shrink thinner brows, right? Do this to fall asleep faster. Do this in the morning 3 times a week to experience XYZ things, right? So apply 3 drops in the morning. So desired results plus a USP or unique mechanism that you might have. So drop pounds with these 5 metabolic superfoods. You can retire early on $1-3 stocks, right? Like imagine you can retire early on this crypto. Like people are gonna go crazy, right? Important. If you're over 40, these 5 supers drop. I think this is a little long, I would say, because it cuts off on mobile. So just be aware of that. Yeah, you need like, I think, what is it, 35 characters, 60? I forget the exact number. But anyways, look 20 years younger by doing this, right? So like this would work great for females, right? So like lift a saggy butt with this 1-minute workout, or shrink a big beer gut with 1 cup of this every morning, right? Or something. Erase under eye bags. That's a problem I have. Like I got Gucci bags under my eyes. So, and you can do this and it only takes 7 minutes, right? I would prefer 3, honestly, because I don't have that much time in the bathroom. Anyways, help your face look younger by using this daily, completely natural, all natural. What next is what thing does to your body belly. So what blueberries do to your body, like I want to know, right? Or what 2 drop of our serum helps you do XYZ. What hard-boiled eggs do to your belly. What turmeric does to your immune system. What ketosis does to your body, right? It breaks down XYZ things and whatnot. You can use wild cards like watermelon, blueberries, like this or that, right? It's funny, it's cute. You can always do like versus, right? So like you can do watermelon versus blueberries, which is healthier, right? Scrambled eggs, lemon and fatigue, lemon water. Like they're like, what are you talking about? They're like, huh? So they want to go click on that. This benefit plus unique symptom from big problem. So this releases pounds of trapped fat from your tummy. This shrinks menopause tummy naturally. 5-second test fixes a slow thyroid. 1-minute workout fixes a saggy butt. Whatever it may be, right? So like you can do a little warning, see if you're at risk and what to do. Avoid XYZ things if you're 40. America's top cardiologist warns, right? Avoid this toxic protein. 3 things a woman over 40 should never do. So if you're 40 or a woman, you're clicking this email. I promise you. Symptoms, do this. Menopause tummy, do this before bed. Crunchy cheeks, use this odd bandit. Saggy arms, do this 1-minute workout, right? So whatever it may be. And I know I talked about, you can also do from name tests. I'm just not going to go into it for this specific video, but maybe in the future, or if you guys want to message me on Instagram or Facebook or anywhere else. Yeah. Anyways, one of the best things I like to do, and I think it makes a super high CTR, like it makes their click-through rates go through the roof, is having images or GIFs, which is crazy because sometimes I like having GIFs of my sales page or webinar or event page as a GIF and it's scrolling. You can have it of the audience, so like you're speaking on stage and the audience and the camera's moving around. Like it's crazy stuff that you can do. At ClickFunnels, we abuse the play button, like because it's just a picture with a video and it just works. People love clicking on it because they think it's a video, but it's not. You can use personal images, so like a family image or you of working out, or you doing something that matters, or you holding a dog. Women love dogs and they want to click on stuff, and yeah, so there's that. You can talk about problem images. I know it kind of looks wonky and whatnot, but like if somebody's dealing with a problem, like imagine like fat stomach and you're like, hey, you doing with, is this you? Like imagine like you had a pointer error and they're like, is this you? And they're gonna click it. You can use GIFs, yeah, and whatnot. So one of the last steps that I'll go into is optimization. So I think most people don't do this. Most copywriters don't do this. Most email guys, and especially most business owners, they're like, oh, I just don't have the time for this. So, but number one, you just want to review stats, right? I review stats of clients almost every day. I have like, okay, let me just check this. I personally like seeing stats, and if you're an email marketer, I'm sure you do as well. You want to know how good your email did or which one flopped, and you're like, I'm never doing that ever again, and you're butthurt about it because like, how dare I do bad? Anyways, so key things to improve is, you can look at the hook / the big idea. You can talk about the why or the unique mechanism. You can look at the solution of the problem, like did the solution hit? Did the problem make sense? Or was there any credibility or the proof that I missed? And here's my personal optimization checklist that you can utilize. So is there a easy first sentence / hook win that I could utilize? So let me just zoom into this. Is there a better big idea, right? Is there an easy email type when based on the sales page, right? Is there a more unique, exciting, pain-driven, curiosity-provoking way I can call out the problem? Is the unique mechanism blind or direct? Would the opposite work better? Is there a more appealing, unique mechanism, right? Name it. And by the way, you can make up stuff. I promise. Maybe go ask chat or cloud or whatnot, right? So is the solution direct or blind? Is there a more appealing or specific way or solution of doing things? Is the solution amplified? Share a more appealing amplification, right? Is there a more weighted credibility or proof? Can you provide something that makes sense? So, anyways, guys, this is how I think about emails when it comes to controlled bidding emails. This is my exact process that I utilize from ideation to execution. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go right. And if you want this doc, by the way, message me doc on Instagram and I will send it to you. So if you message me doc, D-O-C, I will send you how to write controlled bidding emails. I've spent a little bit of time on this, creating all this. So if you want it, message me doc or put a comment in the chat below. I'll probably put it there. And yeah, that is all, guys. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you ever need help with emails, or if you ever need help in any marketing, from ads to emails to, I primarily work with coaches, consultants, some software businesses as well. And yeah, so if you ever need help, feel free to reach out to me anytime. And I look forward to you watching my next video. Thank you so much and have a good day.